Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. The department store loomed before Tyler, its darkened windows reflecting the streetlights like eerie eyes in the night. His heart pounded as he clutched the small duffel bag containing his disguise. This ridiculous dare from his college buddies had seemed manageable when fueled by liquid courage. But now, faced with the reality of spending an entire night dressed as a girl in a closed store, Tyler's resolve wavered.
"You got this, man," Finn whispered, clapping him on the shoulder. "I'll be right outside if you need anything."
Tyler nodded, grateful for his best friend's support. Finn had always been there for him, through thick and thin. Even now, as they stood on the precipice of what could be the most embarrassing night of Tyler's life, Finn remained steadfast. With trembling hands, Tyler fished out the key he'd borrowed from his summer job at the store. The lock clicked open and he slipped inside, leaving Finn to keep watch. The store's interior was eerily quiet, mannequins casting long shadows in the dim emergency lighting. Tyler made his way to the employee locker room, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Once inside, he unzipped his bag and laid out the contents: a flowing sundress, a padded bra, pantyhose, and a long brunette wig.
"This is insane,"
he muttered, but began to change anyway. The dress felt strange against his skin, the fabric softer than anything he was used to wearing. As he adjusted the wig, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror and froze. The person staring back at him was pretty. Tyler blinked, unable to reconcile the image with his sense of self. He'd always been athletic, with short-cropped hair and a muscular build. But now, with curves in all the right places and long, flowing locks, he looked undeniably feminine. A mixture of emotions swirled within him: confusion, fear, and something else he couldn't quite name. Excitement, perhaps? He pushed the thought away, focusing instead on the task at hand. Venturing out into the store proper, Tyler began to explore. He ran his hands over silky blouses and twirled in front of full-length mirrors, marveling at how the dress swished around his legs. As the hours ticked by, his initial discomfort faded, replaced by a growing sense of freedom. By the time dawn broke, Tyler had discovered something about himself he'd never known existed. As he changed back into his regular clothes, he felt a pang of loss, as if he were saying goodbye to a part of himself he'd only just met. Finn was waiting outside, bleary-eyed but smiling. "How'd it go?" Tyler hesitated, unsure how to articulate the transformation he'd undergone. "It was interesting," he said finally. "Thanks for having my back." Finn nodded, throwing an arm around Tyler's shoulders.
"Always, man! That's what friends are for!"
As they walked away from the store, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted within him. Little did he know, this night would be the first step on a journey of self-discovery that would change his life forever. 5 years later, Tyler stood in front of a different mirror, this time in the tiny bathroom of his apartment. The invitation to the company Halloween party lay on the counter, mocking him with its cheerful orange and black design. He'd been putting off deciding on a costume, knowing deep down what he really wanted to wear, but lacking the courage to follow through. His gaze drifted to the locked bottom drawer of his dresser, visible through the open bathroom door. Inside lay the secrets he'd been keeping since that night in the department store, a small collection of feminine clothing and makeup, purchased in moments of weakness and hidden away in shame. Tyler's phone buzzed, displaying a message from his colleague, Di. "Don't forget the party tonight. Can't wait to see your costume." He sighed, running a hand through his hair, which he'd allowed to grow a bit longer over the years. The urge to dress up, to feel that sense of rightness he'd experienced 5 years ago, was overwhelming. But the fear of judgment, of losing the life he'd built, held him back. A knock at the door startled him out of his reverie. "Tyler, you in there?" It was his neighbor, Ellen.
"Just a sec,"
he called, quickly splashing some water on his face before opening the door. Ellen stood in the hallway, a vision in a Wonder Woman costume. Hey, I was wondering if you wanted to walk to the party together. Tyler forced a smile. Actually, I'm not feeling great. I think I might skip it. Ellen's face fell. Oh no, really? Everyone's been looking forward to seeing you there. She paused, studying his face. Is everything okay? You've seemed off lately. For a moment, Tyler considered confiding in her. Ellen had always been kind and understanding, never judging anyone for their quirks or differences. But the words stuck in his throat. I'm fine, he lied. Just a bit under the weather. Ellen didn't look convinced, but she nodded. All right, well, feel better. And if you change your mind, you know where to find us. As she walked away, Tyler closed the door and leaned against it, his heart racing. He'd been living a half-life for years, denying a part of himself that grew more insistent with each passing day. The thought of spending another night pretending to be someone he wasn't suddenly seemed unbearable. Before he could talk himself out of it, Tyler strode to the dresser and unlocked the bottom drawer. He pulled out a shimmering blue dress, silver heels, and a makeup kit. His hands shook as he applied foundation, blush, and mascara, skills he'd practiced in secret over the years. The dress hugged his figure in a way that felt right, accentuating curves he'd always tried to hide. He slipped on the heels, wobbling slightly before finding his balance. Finally, he donned a long, blonde wig, styling it into loose waves that framed his face. The person in the mirror was both familiar and strange, a more authentic version of himself than he'd ever allowed the world to see. Taking a deep breath, Tyler grabbed his keys and phone, then stepped out into the hallway before he could lose his nerve. The walk to the party venue was nerve-wracking. Every passing car, every person on the street seemed to be staring. But as he neared the building, the sounds of laughter and music drifting out, Tyler felt a surge of determination. It was time to stop hiding. He pushed open the door, the sudden burst of noise and color almost overwhelming. For a moment, no one noticed him. Then Di's voice cut through the crowd. Tyler? Oh my God, you look amazing! All eyes turned to him, and Tyler braced himself for disgust or ridicule. Instead, he was met with smiles and compliments. Di rushed over, resplendent in a peacock-inspired outfit, and hugged him tightly. I was worried you weren't coming, she said, pulling back to examine his costume. But wow, you really went all out. You look gorgeous. Tyler felt tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. Thanks, he managed, his voice thick with emotion. This isn't just a costume. Di's eyes widened in understanding. She squeezed his hand. Well, whatever it is, you look happier than I've seen you in years. Come on, let's get you a drink. As the night wore on, Tyler found himself relaxing, laughing and dancing with his colleagues. For the first time in as long as he could remember, he felt truly himself. The weight of his secret, carried for so long, began to lift. Near midnight, as the party was winding down, Di pulled him aside. Tyler, I hope you know that we all love you, no matter what. If this is who you really are, we've got your back. Tyler nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. Di hugged him again, then glanced at her watch. Oh shoot, I've got to run. Early meeting tomorrow. But listen, if you want to talk more about this, I'm here for you, okay? As Di left, Tyler found a quiet corner to collect his thoughts. The night had been transformative, showing him a glimpse of what his life could be if he embraced his true self. But the thought of facing the world beyond this accepting bubble was terrifying. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice Ellen approaching until she spoke. Hey there, beautiful. Having a good time? Tyler looked up, startled. Ellen, Yeah, it's been great. She sat down next to him, her Wonder Woman costume slightly disheveled from a night of dancing. I'm glad you changed your mind about coming, and can I just say you look absolutely stunning. Thanks, Tyler said, blushing. I was nervous about wearing this, but everyone's been so kind. Ellen's expression softened. Tyler, I hope you know that you can always be yourself around me, whatever that means for you. The sincerity in her voice broke something open inside Tyler. Before he knew it, he was pouring out the story of the past 5 years, the night in the department store, the growing realization that he wasn't comfortable in his own skin, the fear of losing everything if he admitted the truth. Ellen listened without judgment, offering quiet support as Tyler's words tumbled out. When he finally fell silent, she took his hand. "Thank you for trusting me with this. I can't imagine how hard it's been keeping this secret for so long. But Tyler, you deserve to be happy. To be your authentic self."
"I don't even know who that is anymore," Tyler admitted.
"Well," Ellen said with a gentle smile, "tonight seems like a pretty good start. And whatever you decide, whatever path you choose, I'll be here to support you." As they left the party together, Tyler felt a glimmer of hope for the future. For the first time in years, he could envision a life where he didn't have to hide, where he could be truly, completely himself. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of emotion and change. Tyler, with the unwavering support of Di and Ellen, began to explore his gender identity more openly. He started seeing a therapist who specialized in gender issues, slowly unpacking years of repressed feelings and confusion. It was during one of these sessions that Tyler first vocalized the truth he'd been dancing around for years. I think I'm a woman," he said, the words feeling both terrifying and liberating. The therapist nodded encouragingly. "And how does it feel to say that out loud?" Tyler took a deep breath, considering. "Scary, but also right, like I'm finally being honest with myself." From that moment on, Tyler began to embrace her true identity. She chose the name Talia, feeling it reflected the person she'd always been inside. With Di's help, she began to build a feminine wardrobe, learning to navigate the world of makeup and hairstyles. The process of coming out at work was nerve-wracking, but Talia was amazed by the support she received. Her boss arranged a meeting with HR to discuss the transition process, ensuring that Talia would be protected from discrimination and that her colleagues would be educated on proper pronoun usage and sensitivity. There were challenges, of course. Some coworkers struggled with the change, stumbling over pronouns or avoiding eye contact. Talia's parents, when she finally worked up the courage to tell them, reacted with confusion and hurt. But slowly, with patience and open communication, most of the important people in her life came around. Through it all, Di and Ellen remained Talia's staunchest allies. They accompanied her to doctor's appointments, helped her practice her feminine voice, and provided shoulders to cry on during the inevitable moments of doubt and dysphoria. As the months passed, Talia blossomed. She began hormone replacement therapy, watching with joy as her body slowly transformed to match her inner self. Her confidence grew, and she found herself forming deeper, more authentic relationships with those around her. One evening, about a year into her transition, Talia stood in front of her full-length mirror, barely recognizing the woman who looked back at her. Her hair, now grown out to her shoulders, framed a softer face. Curves had begun to develop in places that had once been angular and masculine. But more than the physical changes, it was the light in her eyes, the easy smile on her lips that truly reflected her transformation. A knock at the door pulled her from her reverie. It was Ellen, looking stunning in a deep green dress. "Ready to go? We don't want to be late for my dinner party." Talia nodded, grabbing her purse. As they walked to Ellen's car, Talia couldn't help but feel a flutter of nervousness. Ellen had mentioned that she'd invited some old friends from college, people Talia hadn't seen since before her transition. But Ellen had assured her that everyone attending was open-minded and supportive. The drive to Ellen's place was filled with comfortable chatter, Ellen regaling Talia with stories of her latest art project. As they pulled up to the house, Talia took a deep breath, steeling herself for the evening ahead. Inside, the atmosphere was warm and inviting. Soft jazz played in the background as guests mingled, glasses of wine in hand. Ellen immediately began introducing Talia to people, her hand a comforting presence on Talia's lower back. As they made their way through the crowd, Talia's eyes landed on a familiar face that made her heart skip a beat. Finn, her old best friend, was standing near the fireplace, laughing at something another guest had said. For a moment, Talia froze, overcome by a flood of memories. Finn had been there the night of the department store dare, had been her confidant and support through so much of her life. But they'd drifted apart over the years, losing touch as their lives took different paths. Before Talia could decide whether to approach him or not, Finn turned and their eyes met. There was a moment of confusion on his face, followed by dawning recognition. His eyes widened and he began to make his way through the crowd towards her. "Tyler?" he asked hesitantly as he reached them.
Is that you?"
Talia nodded, her throat tight with emotion.
"It's Talia now, actually. Hi, Finn, it's been a long time."
Finn's face broke into a warm smile.
"Talia, it suits you."
He pulled her into a hug and Talia felt tears pricking at her eyes.
"You look amazing. God, it's good to see you."
As they pulled apart, Ellen tactfully excused herself, leaving Talia and Finn to catch up. They found a quiet corner and the years seemed to melt away as they talked. Talia shared the story of her transition and Finn listened with rapt attention, his eyes never leaving her face.
"I always knew there was something special about you," Finn said softly when she'd finished. "Even that night at the store, I could see how it changed you. I'm so happy you found yourself, Talia."
They spent the rest of the evening reconnecting, barely noticing as other guests began to leave. Talia found herself captivated by Finn's easy laugh, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. She'd always been attracted to him, but had buried those feelings deep, afraid of ruining their friendship. Now, seeing him again after all these years, those old emotions came rushing back with new intensity. As the party wound down, Finn offered to walk Talia home. They strolled through the quiet streets, their conversation flowing as easily as it had years ago. When they reached Talia's apartment building, they both hesitated, neither wanting the night to end.
"Talia," Finn said, his voice soft, "I don't know if this is too forward, but I'd really like to see you again. Maybe we could get coffee sometime?"
Talia felt a warmth bloom in her chest.
"I'd like that,"
she replied, unable to keep the smile from her face. Finn grinned, relief evident in his expression.
"Great, I'll call you tomorrow."
Talia nodded and, on impulse, leaned in to kiss him on the cheek.
"Good night, Finn."
As she watched him walk away, Talia felt a sense of rightness settle over her. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring them back together at exactly the right moment, when they were both ready to explore the connection that had always simmered between them. Over the next few months, Talia and Finn's relationship deepened. They went on coffee dates that turned into dinner dates, spent lazy Sundays exploring the city, and talked for hours about everything and nothing. Finn was endlessly supportive of Talia's journey, always there to offer a listening ear or a comforting hug on the difficult days. One evening, as they cuddled on Talia's couch watching a movie, Finn turned to her with a serious expression. "Talia, there's something I need to tell you." Talia felt a flicker of anxiety, but pushed it down. "What is it?" Finn took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I've always been in love with you, even back in college, when you were Tyler. I just didn't know how to express it then." Talia's heart soared. She cupped Finn's face in her hands, tears of joy spilling down her cheeks. "Oh, Finn, I've loved you for so long, I was just too afraid to admit it even to myself." Their lips met in a kiss, years of unspoken feelings pouring out between them.
"So,"
Finn said, his eyes twinkling, "does this mean you'll be my girlfriend?" Talia laughed, feeling lighter than she had in years. "Yes, you dork! Of course I will." As they settled back into each other's arms, Talia marveled at the journey that had brought her to this moment. From that night in the department store to her courageous decision to live as her true self, every step had led her here, to the arms of the man she loved. She thought back to the 3 steps to happiness she'd once read about: finding out who we are, accepting who we are, and being who we are. Talia realized she'd finally achieved all three. She knew who she was, Talia, a woman who had fought hard to become her authentic self. She had accepted that truth, embracing every aspect of her identity. And now, with Finn by her side and a bright future ahead, she was truly living as the person she was always meant to be. As the credits rolled on the forgotten movie, Talia snuggled closer to Finn, feeling a profound sense of peace. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she had the strength to face them, secure in her identity and surrounded by love. Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon if you want to have early access to the other parts. If not, it will be online in a couple of days.